Mhm.
Start Googling the words and stuff like that. And sad to say, but the FDA and AFCO, they will allow certain chemicals that are technically poisons in pet foods that are at a certain, percentage. So the analogy I use there is it's no different than in the 50s when the housewife didn't care for her husband and was putting arsenic in her husband's dinner every night and would pass on, a year and a half down the road.
Right.
Martians landed,
Yes.
wearing Prada suits,
Yes.
drinking Henry Seltzer,
Yes.
chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and
Your branding here,
yes, brand.
your message here,
Yes, and
a verse about
yes,
your product here.
yes,
I'm Hirsch Redmond.
yes, and
I'm a message therapist.
yes,
And I have a podcast.
yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes,
We'll help you fix the world
yes.
or your bottom line.
All right,
Your bottom line.
get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
In the hot seat at Yes Brand today is Tony Richardson. Tony is the founder of Harley's Treats USA, a dog treats company. He retired after 24 years of active duty in the U.S. Army. And being all about health and wellness for pups, he decided to turn his attentions to Harley's Treats. And we're going to talk about what the company does, why he got into it, and where it's at right now. And, in addition to the exposure that we can hopefully give it on the show, what other strategies are in place for marketing the company. So welcome, Tony, to Yes Brand.
Thank you, Hirsch.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So let's start with why Harley's Treats.
So the original reason I started Harley's Treats was roughly 2018. I was stationed over in Germany. I had a German Shepherd that was a Marine Corps reject, as in he was blown up in Afghanistan, ended up with pins in his back, and I got him at age 5. I got him mainly because he wouldn't take to other people, and he automatically took to me and my kids at that time. They're like, he's yours. So
Wow. Yeah.
I had him for 6 great years and gave him 6 wonderful years. But while I was over in Germany, believe it or not, the Europeans do animals a little bit different. They don't believe in processed foods and things of that nature. While we were going through the process of, Buddy was at his end, which was very painful. The vet there, she went ahead and helped me out, and she really educated me a lot. We did manage to get Buddy to make it about another year before we finally had to make that call. And that's where I really got into it.
Well, what were Buddy's injuries? And
So he was blown up in Afghanistan, and he had it broke his back. So he ended up with pins in his back. His hips were not the best, and towards the end there, his hips were totally going out, as well as his digestion. He wasn't processing food, and then I had to hold him up for him to defecate. It could be sometimes a very lengthy process because it was not an easy thing for him to do, and we had to wipe his butt. And else. It was just very time consuming, and it was painful for him.
It's interesting to think about this stuff because there's a certain emotional trigger that gets activated when we consider not just the sacrifice that this dog made or that dogs make in the canine outfits and so forth, but the fact that as much as there might be a draft in place at a certain point, or people kind of not joining the military necessarily because they want to make a sacrifice or they plan on it, but there's no decision making that we're aware of with a dog. And so there's an extra level, I guess, of compassion or just emotion that we feel in sometimes hearing about their injuries, and it's not certainly to take away from the sacrifices made by people, but we're talking about a different thing. We're talking about apples and oranges. We're not talking about the same thing, but there's definitely an emotional quotient when you see someone who, in this case, a dog that didn't sign up for this, as you say, that didn't have to suffer, could have had a healthy, longer life, but found themselves in a war zone getting blown up.
Exactly. I mean, Buddy obviously had no choice, and he had one goal in mind, and that was to do his job and help,
Yeah.
help his handler, and that which became, he wanted to do nothing but please me. I mean, I would come home from work, and I would sit down in the chair to take my boots off, and it was his comment. He just loved to put his head right between my legs
Mhm.
and just lean right there.
Right.
It took a lot for him to get up to do that, but for
Yeah.
him, that was his job.
Okay. So that certainly clarifies a little bit where the motivation came from. And was it after Buddy had passed that the Harley's treats evolved? When did that come into fruition?
I had PCS to Alaska. I made the list for Sergeant Major, so I had to go down to El Paso. While I was down there, I ended up I went and volunteered for 2 weeks at the animal shelter down there. Should have known I was going to come out with a dog.
Yeah.
And I got this rescue. She was unknown age, and a shepherd something mix, and he had a really, really rough life. But anyways, so we got her, and wife and I sat down when we were doing our bills and stuff, and we looked at it and like, holy cow, we're spending almost twice as much on our dogs for food than we are for ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's where I started to make that transition to thinking about it. It actually happened, and this is kind of a funny story. I had finished the academy. We were up in Washington. Fort Lewis was my last duty station, and I'm in Shelton, Washington at a Walmart, and I'm grabbing packages off the shelf. I'm reading the ingredients, and if it was garbage, I threw it on the ground. That's what I was doing. A poor, probably 19, 20-year-old kid comes around the corner with his little Walmart stuff on.
Mhm.
And, sir, can I help you? I was like, that's all garbage. You can just throw it away. I do get very emotional about this.
Yeah. Sure.
Very passionate. And so my wife's like, let's just go. And we left that store. We did go to a few others and check some stuff out. But that day was literally where we left one of the other stores, and I said, I'm starting a pet food company.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. My wife was 100% behind me. She is in the corporate world. She does consulting and stuff like that. So I always tell people she's much more smartlier than I am.
Yeah.
But she's very supportive, and if I'm brainstorming on something, she'll just interject something, and it just gets the wheels going. And she 100% supported me. January of 2020, I had an LLC, and I was starting to make treats. We were still living in our fifth wheel in Washington, because this was during the housing crisis up there, and we were waiting to get
Right.
on. I was making these treats. I had friends, family, everybody wanted them. They loved the natural part of it. My wife signed me up for a farmer's market. It quickly turned out to be, 2:00 in the morning. I'm baking in this little oven in the fifth wheel.
Yeah.
And now we're at where we're at now. All the research, the animal nutrition accreditations through several agencies. I've learned so much, and I really am disgusted at some of the stuff that's out there. I'm disgusted at the fact of the matter that I know you said we'd get there, but the marketing techniques that these huge corporations use. I've started to do local speaking here. So the Mesa area has got a lot of 55 and over type parks. They've got dog clubs and stuff like that. So I can start speaking with them. I've got 3 pre-made classes done up, and one's like how to choose the best kibble on your budget, because a lot of them are on Social Security, and they can only afford so much. And I fully understand that. And they don't want to harm their pet. So I'll give that class, and just, if anything, I've got people that come here to the shop now, and they'll bring their dog food in, and we just analyze the ingredients and everything and price, and I'll even give them other suggestions. I'm not getting kickbacks from any of these companies. I'm in it for the health of the pet, and I understand that there are people have budgets.
Right. And how did the recipes and all of that stuff take shape? You mentioned working with organizations in terms of the food quality, the formulas and stuff. How did that come together?
So a lot of it came together as I was going through some of these classes to be accredited as an animal nutritionist. Many of them, and people don't like this answer, but I believe it or not, I actually come up with them. So like our beefy bacon biscuit, that was our first biscuit. I was like, what dog doesn't like bacon? And at the time I was thinking there's a treat out there that's absolutely disgustingly horrible. Use names because I'm scared somebody's going to come after me legally wise, but it's an absolute horrid treat. So I actually buy bacon. Now I buy bacon in bulk and sheet it and chop it up all, I'll do a case all in one morning or whatever, and then store it in the walk-in. But I was like, what dog doesn't like bacon? And there is protein in it. Sure, there's sodium, but trust me, some of the other foods out there, you're getting a lot more sodium than that. And then coconut oil, which, I started to go, per the FDA, you cannot use the term holistic when you're talking dog food or dog treats or pet food.
Right.
The reason, and FDA's literal reason, and it's in bold print, because there is no definition for the term holistic, it cannot be used in pet food.
Right.
I do take that approach. Coconut oil is great for the skin. It's great for the coat, especially here in the Southwest. It's dry. You hear dogs licking your paws. You hear dogs flaky skin, thing of that nature. It helps out. And I tell people there's nothing wrong with throwing a tablespoon of coconut oil in their dog food either, every once in a while. Not every day, but it does have the good cholesterol. Everything I do, so it's well thought out. There's a rhyme and a reason for everything they do. The military kind of prepared me for that. I was a drill sergeant way back in the day.
Right.
Everything we did had a rhyme and a reason. We told you to get up at 4:30 in the morning to go shave. Well, so you're ready for the day. Told you to make your bed. Why? Because everything's always in neat and orderly. Rhyme and reason for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, as far as what's wrong without, and I subscribe to the idea that you don't have to mention the names of the brands that are doing things wrong, because why give them more air? It's more, let's find alternatives. Like I was thinking of when I was thinking of treats and I was thinking of what you were talking about, nutrition, I was thinking of the line, nutritious pet food shouldn't have to be a treat, meaning it shouldn't be rare, it shouldn't be special. It should be across the board. But tell me some of the things that are wrong right now with the big brands, with going into the superstores and buying the big brands in bulk and all of that stuff. What are some problems with that?
So the
those products.
It's the process in which these things are made. That's one of the biggest problems. And then it's also the ingredients. I always tell people, look at your first 5 ingredients. So there's a misconception out there about grain. Grain's not necessarily bad for a pet. However, it should not be the bulk of what is in that particular food or treat or whatever. So it's being used as a filler. But if the first 5, if in your first 5 ingredients, if you got words you cannot pronounce, it's not good. Start Googling the words and stuff like that. And sad to say, but the FDA and AFCO, they will allow certain chemicals that are technically poisons in pet foods that are at a certain percentage. So the analogy I use there is it's no different than in the 50s when the housewife didn't care for her husband and was putting arsenic in her husband's dinner every night and would pass on a year and a half down the road.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with pet foods and the limit as far as that goes. Now, as far as the first part of the question, I'm sorry. I get off on tangents with that. I really am horrible at that. But so the process of how this stuff is made, big companies are making as much as they can, as fast as they can, and as cost effective as they can. That's good business. It is.
Yeah.
I can't fault them for that. However, they're losing, in my opinion, they're losing one thing. They really don't care about the end consumer. The end consumer is your pet.
Right.
And so when we talk about process, they're flash baking this stuff at like 500 degrees or higher time. They're saving time. They're cooking it quick and getting it through the assembly.
Yeah.
They flash cook it at that temperature, which often causes carcinogens. Now, again, the analogy I'll use here is it's no different than your pet smoking a pack of cigarettes or chewing tobacco or something like that. It's getting. You'll see a lot of products out there. They'll have an ash content. Why do we need an ash content percentage in our pet food or pet treats? So that's my big problem that I have with it. And there's plenty of research out there that supports that is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And then we go into the ingredients.
Yeah. Well, Harley's Treats has, I'm looking at your site. There's a lot of great products. Is there like kibble or food or only treats? And if so, why?
I'm really actually happy you asked that question, because guess what?
Yeah.
Here in about a week and a half, we are about to launch our dog food.
Oh, wow. Okay. Congratulations.
And it's something I always wanted to get into. It was just being able to find a cost-effective way of being able to do it.
Right.
So Harley's Treats USA, we will be launching, it'll be called True, as in TRUE. Trustworthy, real, unmatched ingredients, eats.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's where we came up with, we actually, as a family, we came up with that name. And that is what we're going with. The first recipe that we have, which is very well balanced. I was cussing my high school math teacher and my high school science teacher all the way through when I was figuring all this out, because I told them many years ago that I'd never used math. And everything is well balanced, measured out. It's ground beef, beef liver, beef heart. Right now we're at 17 ingredients. There is nothing fake. It is a refrigerated product.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's refrigerated, I gather, because it's fresh, because it's kind of fresh and doesn't have a lot of preservatives and all that other stuff. My dog, I have a Yorkie poo, and Yorkie poos are a little particular about what they eat. From the get-go, he prefers real food to kibble, or he doesn't like wet foods. He doesn't like, because we tried the supposedly healthier or whatever, the fresher foods, but he doesn't really like that. And with him, it's like, his taste will change. So there's no secret formula with that breed and with that dog. But I am interested, and as I'm sure a lot of people are, in, everybody is wondering what's best for their breed of dog, their dog in particular, small dogs, big dogs. So how far along are you with those kinds of, categorizations?
Okay, so you bring up a good topic, and I will plain and simple. You look at these dog foods that are for overweight, senior, young adult, stuff like that. There's no difference in those dog foods.
Right.
What that is, that's just marketing, and that's just shelf space that they're taking up. So where there is a difference is if you have a dog that maybe is diabetic.
Right.
Oftentimes a senior, they may have digestive issues and they may not be able to absorb all the nutrients in there. So that will have to be changed a little bit. Really, to be honest with you, there is a company out there that took a good approach to it, and they make dogs for specific breeds, but it's not really there. It's more, it's a marketing tool. I tell customers, I have people that call me. So we are in Florida. My daughter does events and stuff like that out in Florida. I had a customer call me last week, and I talked him through, and I gave him tips on how to go ahead and make sure that his dog is getting But to answer that question, there really is no difference. A puppy needs all the food you can get. So if your puppy is hungry, literally what you're going to do is we won't call it overfeeding, but you're going to feed a puppy literally twice as much as what you would normally feed a normal dog. Now, you asked that question as far as how far am I along as far as offering other types. It's all there. We're going to start with this first general, all encompassing dog food. And I will move into for seniors, and that's going to have it'll have a natural supplement in there for joints to
Right.
use that. I will have a puppy blend that's going to be extremely high in protein, which will have to be stocked
Right.
at a certain point. A lot of these brands out there, they may have puppy, but they haven't increased that protein
Right.
as much as what they should.
Yeah, I noticed that when he was a puppy. And you know what the vet had told us when we first got him. He's 3 now, and he was 4 months old when we adopted him. And basically the vet said, well, if you give him, food if you augment his diet with human food, he's going to want that food. He's going to want that. He's going to become accustomed to it. Whereas if you come up with a diet that's suitable for him, that doesn't involve, you making your own food or giving him from your food, he'll be fine. He'll eat when he's hungry. And that was probably logical. But what they didn't get into is, all the crap that's out, all the crappy brands that are out there. I mean, look, I'm interested in this as I am in a lot of my guests, businesses and endeavors, from a point of view of relating as a pet owner, as someone who every day, multiple times a day, this is something that I think about, right? What he's feeding, what he's eating, what we're giving him, how is he processing it? How's his stomach? He's little, he's 7.5 pounds. It's like, what that stuff is really relevant. So knowing that, and knowing how many people may be looking for healthy alternatives for their dogs, what have you done marketing wise? What does the landscape look like to you? Where do you find the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is, and part of the reason why I'm here, is branding.
Right.
People don't know what the Harley's Treats USA name means. I've been accused of, or I've had the question, are you a bakery? Are you, do you make cupcakes and
Right.
and stuff like that? And that was probably, maybe I could have done better with choosing the name, but now it is out there, and we do have a following.
Right.
So we're not changing the name. It is what
It's a great name.
We do social media, obviously. I'm on all platforms. I did have somebody doing it for me. We're just at a point with the company that I can't afford to do that right now, because we do have a production facility and a storefront. It's taking some of the funding there. So I try to keep up on it as best I can. I think I do a halfway decent job. I did recently get a social media influencer. He actually was more interested in us being a veteran-owned company and the nutrition. So we worked a deal because some of those influencers, you've got to pay them up front. We worked a deal. I gave him a code. If somebody purchases with his code, he'll get a cut off of that, which actually helped me out immensely to get the branding out there. And then we still do farmers markets. We used to do Queens Creek Farmers Market here. I'm going to do second Sundays on Mill, which is in Tempe, right by the university. My daughter is out in Florida. She does farmers market. She does events, home shows. They have a bunch of festivals out there, which are crazy. The Kumquat Festival was absolutely crazy. And this year I'm going to go out there and help her with that, because it was that crazy where she ran.
Where in Florida?
Tampa. She's in the Tampa area.
Tampa. Cool.
Yeah. She's going to school for business law. Hopefully going to be my attorney someday.
Oh, great.
Yeah. But those are the ways that we're going right now. I'm also on a couple of platforms, or one platform, trying to get into stores. So we do have, and I'll throw them a plug because they're my first real wholesale customer. The German Shepherd shop, as of
Okay.
placed a 20 case order with me. Tony is his name, which kind of, I guess, made
Right.
that sales call go well.
2 Tonys are better than one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's also a veteran, so
Okay.
it was an awesome phone conversation. And before we were done with phone conversation, talking about our deployments and stuff like that, he said, "Hey, just give me 20 cases," and got that order pumped out. And he's already selling that stuff, so it's great.
Well, there's 2 sides to, what you were talking about. One being being on these platforms, being, working with influencers, being on social media and trying to keep up with it, which I hear constantly. And then the other side being, the people you're working with and the distributors and the events, the live of, doing grassroots kind of marketing, which I'm a big fan of, which I've done as a creative and as a strategist. I've done a lot of, because I feel like the in-person and person-to-person stuff, there's, all the social media stuff is its success, I believe, is really predicated on what you're doing in the real world. If your story is great in the real world, I'm a big advocate of sharing it on social media. And, there's a lot of bad in social media. There's a lot of nefariousness and just advantage taken of the user. But I think we can combat it with a lot of really good content and a lot of really good use of the platforms. But I do feel like your own website, your own hub, your email list that you cultivate, let's say, your customers and advocates and fans are really yours to own, in the sense that the platforms like Facebook and Instagram and, now Thread or whatever it might be, don't exist to help you, is the bottom line. That's just the truth. They don't exist to help you. They weren't created to help you. They're created to exploit you. Contrary to, where you don't want to badmouth a competitive brand. They're not my competitors, so I don't really, I'm just one of the victims like everybody else. And we're victims by choice. Like we started the conversation talking about how Buddy had, made these sacrifices in a less with no choice, just trained to, designed to serve, trained to do his job. And that's all he cared about, versus, us, we have free will. We don't have to be on social media at all. We don't have to use a phone. We can survive in any number of ways. We're choosing to engage. And so my thought is, since we're engaged, let's engage for good. Let's engage for the things that make the world a better place. Let's engage for things that elevate the experiences of ourselves and our pets and the people we love and the animals we love. And I think that with Harley's treats, there's a lot that can be explored because of all the goodness that's in it. There's goodness in the DNA of the brand. There's goodness in the ingredients. There's goodness in the connection to veterans. There's got to be something in there, by the way, of the veterinarian dynamic. There's something funny about that. There's something funny and so relatable in that we all, it's kind of a, an honest mistake that probably people make when they're younger or less informed, of a veterinarian and a veteran. But then there's a combination here of looking out for your dogs, and a veteran. There's something to it. And then the debate of which is the, like you could say, which is the proper use, veterinarian or veteran, which is the proper use for pet care, right? And obviously the answer is both, right? And then you could have, veterans speak on. You could have your other Tony also speak on that, and you could speak on that. But then we have the other side where we have the veterinarian speaking, because the veterinarian is giving the practical kind of endorsement, really, of the quality of the food and all of that. But I could see that being a good campaign. There's so much you can do, and it all begins with heart. It all begins with caring, and people have said to me, well, can't you do marketing for everybody? Like, can't any marketing mind work for anyone? And I said, not really, because the fact is that it's so much easier to, and I use the term, people listen to the show know that I use the term every day, sell the truth. So much easier to sell the truth than it is to snow people, or the companies that we were alluding to that high heat the food and quick cook the food and all that. They're in a volume business anyway. They don't care. They're going to sell millions and millions and millions of units. They don't really care about the quality, simply because it isn't of interest to them. It's not going to change anything. So the packaging and what they say, and the FDA and what they're allowed to say and what they're allowed to use is all a numbers game to them. Whereas to you and to me, on the level that I work with people, it's a personal undertaking and a personal pursuit, and there's a conscience there. When you have such a big company, I think what it is that, people say, oh man, those big companies don't care about anybody. Well, a company isn't really a person, right? Tax questions aside, but a company really isn't a person. It's more because it's so vast and so big that they can keep passing the buck from one person to another. So they can actually blame the other employee or the other office or the head office or this thing or that bureaucracy or whatever, or this lobby or that, they can shift the blame around so they don't have to feel bad about it.
When you say that, though, I'll relate, because I do care about what I do, and
sure,
it is from the heart. And I even think of, so my last job, I had 863 individuals. Did I care about each and every one of them? You're absolutely correct. I did. I control what I can within my direct supervision, or
command, really. Yeah.
Command, yeah. So in command. So these big companies, it is, they have a board to answer to. The board is representing the stockholders. The stockholders want one thing, and that's the money. They're not really worried about it. As Harley's Treats grows, because I know it will.
Right.
That is something that I'm not going to take away. We employ veterans. I have 5 veterans that come here typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they help me package product. 2 of them are retired nurses. One's a Navy retired nurse. One's an Army retired nurse. Another infantry guy. A couple of commo guys from Army. They're older gentlemen. They come. They're older gentlemen. Older Vietnam vets. Most of them.
Oh wow, yeah.
The 2 nurses are not. They're actually GWAT vets. But I got a huge table back there, and I just bring the stuff out and set it on the table. They got their scales, and they sit. I'm not paying them. I'm not a company that is looking at, okay, you only packaged 12 units this hour, so the quota is 27, and you didn't do
right.
That's not even it. They get there in there, come in here, and they tell war stories. We talk about all sorts of stuff. We talk about current events. We talk about the weather, and they're packaging as they do it. It's nothing stressful. It's a great experience for them. And to be honest with you, and they've all told me this, they're just looking for 2 to 4 hours a week just to get out of the house, just to go be involved with something. And I got a whole company. When I say company, I'm referring to a military company.
Right.
110, 111 individuals waiting to come on in here and help. And
yeah.
That's what they want to do. I mean, they're not in it for the money.
Yeah.
They're in it for something to do, and they believe in what I do. I do need to throw, of course, I don't have the proper packaging here. There we go. This is one,
Oh yeah.
but this is our beef liver bites. $2 of each purchase of this automatically goes to Gold Star Peak, which is a nonprofit. If you're familiar with Gold Star Families.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So each one of our products has a donation that it goes to. The strawberries and cream, it's not on the label yet because I still have to get these labels made up. USA Cares, $1 goes to that. They help active duty and veterans. And my primary purpose with them was suicide prevention.
Good. Yeah.
And then I've got our Benji's breath mints, which this one here, $1 goes to Southwest Veterans Foundation. We're helping out homeless throughout the Southwest, as well as suicide prevention on that one as well. Actually,
Right.
belong to that foundation, and not only do we support them, but I belong to that foundation. I go out and help them with stuff here in the Phoenix area with veterans. It's veteran homelessness is something that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Homelessness, suicide, and also, from what I understand, a lot of this stuff happens several years out of service. It can take 7 to 10 years for that veteran to circle to this point where they're despondent, where they're giving up on reentry, all of this stuff. So it's not, oh, they're home, they're fine. The resources need to be there for the long term and at any point for veterans to get help when they need it. Being in Phoenix, so you have a storefront there, right?
yes.
And I gather that's the only location, it's the only store location.
It's only store location as of right now. We are looking October 1st of having a small 400 square foot storefront in Tampa, Florida.
Right. Yeah. I think it would be great. I think because of the personality of the company, that it would be incredible to have storefronts, however modest, in lots of locations, because like I mentioned, when you do that grassroots stuff, you're creating content just by existing, just
Right.
by being there, having regular customers, having interactions, little videos, little posts, things like that. And the people who are franchisees or owners, co-owners of these stores, or run the stores, whatever it might be, are going to be inspired to create. And that kind of small town feel is, I think, what I see for the brand in perpetuity. Like it doesn't feel like it would, like some brands, the dream would be to be the biggest this or that or whatever it is. It doesn't, the growth for this is really, the growth vision seems to be without sacrificing quality, without sacrificing, the benefit to the consumer, grow with the consumer in mind, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
There's so much that can and hopefully will happen with this brand, Tony, and I hope we'll stay in touch as that happens, and you'll come on when the stores in Tampa is ready to open. For one thing, we're definitely going to follow the launch of the food brand. So is the food brand called True?
It's going to be called True.
That's what it is, right? Okay.
True dog food.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Is there something that you want to close with, that you want to give our audience? Our audience are they're entrepreneurs, they're marketers, they're experts in the field, and they're also people who are doing it for themselves, and they're people who hire the experts. So anybody who's around the circle of a business at the decision-making level and at the level where the image is concerned is, potentially listening, what would you like to share with them?
The biggest thing I can share is don't give up. Plain and simple. Don't give up. If you truly believe in what you're doing, then it's a good cause, and others will follow in that path. If you're in it to make $1 million tomorrow, there's really no such thing. And if you do make the $1 million tomorrow, I'm pretty sure that's called a drug dealer. But it can be done, but there are sacrifices. But the payback is unbelievable. I mean, because we do the farmers markets or we do the events and stuff like that. There are so many photos of me being happy, smiling, and spending time with other people's dogs, and then getting screamed at by my Harley when I come home. But that pay, I mean, I just love it. I really do. I enjoy every minute of putting this company together, and I know that I'm doing something good, that it may not be a monetary type of payback, but I'm extending pets' lives. I'm extending education to people so they can make the best choices they can. So just stick, if you believe in what you're doing, stick with it.
Alright.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and?
it worked for you,
Yes, then?
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yeah. Huh?